If you love noodles but also worried about your fiber intake at the same time, I have a perfect recipe for you today. Let's make Asian style noodle soup with lots and lots of veggies. Let's begin with the ingredients. So, for the soup today, I'm using minced garlic, I'm using some red chilies, fresh red chilies. You can add green chilies as well. Lots of spring onion, and I'm using some oyster mushroom, which is very creamy and meaty in texture. I have some carrots, some pork choy, and I'm also using some julienne chicken. So that's all about it. I'm just going to use all these ingredients, and if you want to add some more vegetables, you can. Some soy sauce and some oyster sauce to go along, and that's pretty much. To begin with, in a hot pan, I'll add some oil, the minced garlic, saute them for a minute. Don't burn them. And immediately after that, I'm going to add those fresh oyster mushrooms to it. As I mentioned earlier, they're very meaty in texture, so I want to make sure they're nicely cooked. They have a very nice crust and color, like chicken. So once they're cooked and sauteed properly, I'm going to drop in the julienne boneless chickens to it and cook them both together nicely. So make sure your pan is very hot so you don't want to release the water or the moisture out from the chicken or the mushrooms, so they are sauteed nicely and all the flavors are intact. Once the chicken and the mushrooms are cooked nicely, I'm going to add some water to it. If you have some chicken stock or vegetable stock at home, you can go ahead and use them. At this stage, I'm going to drop in those carrots because they will take some time to cook, and that's the only hard vegetables what I'm using today. So I need to allow them to cook properly along with the mushroom and chicken. So as you can see, the stock or the soup has started boiling. So at this point, I'm adding the oyster sauce and the soy sauce, a couple of spoons. I'm using big spoon, so you can measure accordingly. You can use your tablespoon to measure the soy sauce. You don't have to cook the sauces, and that's the reason I'm adding them at a later stage. At this point, let me check if the carrots are cooked nicely. I'm also using some chicken broth powder since as I mentioned earlier, I'm using water. If you have chicken stock or vegetable stock, you can avoid this. But since I have some broth powder, I thought of using them. So that enhances the flavor completely. Let's add those fresh red chilies according to your taste. If you want to add more, you want to reduce it. But they give you a very nice freshness to the dish. They give you a very nice aroma to the soup. And the spring onions at this stage. So the soup is almost cooked now. So as I mentioned, only the carrots need some time to cook. The pork choys are going in. They'll hardly take time to cook, so they always go at last. So the soup is hot and you just have to wilt them and they're good to go. Check your seasoning. If you need some salt, you can balance it right now. To finish with, I'm using cornstarch slurry or corn flour just to bind everything together. I'm not going to make it very thick since I'm going to serve it with some noodles. So The purpose of this to bind the whole liquid and all other ingredients to come together and not make it a gravy. So you enjoy your soup with vegetables and noodles. So we are done. We will serve with some hot steamed noodles and start pouring the soup and the vegetables. Finish with some more spring onions and more red chilies on top. Enjoy. I hope you try this at home. Take care and stay safe.